It's rumored that for approximately every 8,274 Bladesingers, one Godblade arises. This is the golden one, a Bladesinger that has direct ties to the gods and divinity itself. It's usually a Bladesinger that from an early age showed all the marks to be exceptionally talented and powerful. Having the capabilities to flip the tides of a major battle all by itself is an example of that. But to get the blessings from above, exceptional isn't enough. You have to be the 0.001% and bypass your peers astronomically. Then and only then will the holy reach out to the Bladesinger, but also if another condition is fulfilled. See, it's easy when you have all the power of the world to misuse it and let it get to your head. Whether it's to treat others terribly, feel superior, or for example to dive in the bottomless pit of corruption and using power solely for self-gain. The gods know that you're a much more interesting person if your mind can be in the right space and your heart can be in the right spot. So it is your calling, Godblade. Are you ready for today's power? Earlier on in his life, the Godblade, pre-acquiring Divine Might, traversed the lands with exceptional power already. The so-called level 1 to 8 in the game called Baldur's Gate 3 and being overpowered at every level was shown clearly in this video. Recognize the thumbnail maybe? Well, it will be linked in the description nonetheless. It's my early to mid-game video on how to build your Bladesinger from the ground up and make it exceptionally powerful early on. But also how to actually play a Bladesinger, because what is a Bladesinger exactly? Now today we will continue and really finalize the later parts of this guy's life. Continue at level 9 till 12 and discussing the late game and multiclassing options. Staying monoclass is definitely not a bad idea. That way you get the most spells to prepare at the same time. You get more spells to learn via your class, be able to cast the highest level spells in the game, level 6 spells, and you get a third feat. All of that sounds pretty good, right? However, getting 2 levels in Fighter isn't bad either. The Fighter's action surge obtained at level 2 can really make your Nova damage go berserk, but Fighter is not a caster, so you will stagnate at level 5 spell slots. And I think the best of both worlds will lie in a Fighter that has also caster progression, and maybe the intro already gave it away, but I have personally liked 10 Wizard to Paladin the most here. It also just makes sense since the Bladesinger is a Spellblade type of character. So 10 levels of full caster progression and 2 levels of half caster progression means we will still get them juicy level 6 casts. Paladin is mostly an interesting option since we are a Spellblade build, and we definitely do be attacking with our weapon here physically, so that means we can get Divine Smites to proc extra damage on top of that. Just make sure you have them selected in the reaction menu, and ultimately it will be mostly a matter of gaining the most Nova damage on top of an already really powerful build, useful in all of those spicy fights, especially on honor mode. For example, this clip with Gortash is a good indicator of the build's power, and this is without potions or any prepping or anything extra, just the raw power of the build. We are dealing hundreds and hundreds of damage here in a single turn, and every time we hit this guy with our main hand weapon, we get a reaction prompt asking us to add the Divine Smite proc on top. And since we have multiple attacks every turn, thanks to the Bladesinger's level 6 extra attack, and also because our kit has haste, like I went over in part 1, so that's 3 attacks already, and all those attacks will stack with all those Divine Smites. So 6 sources of damage there through your main hand weapon. And since we are dual wielding weapons, these Divine Smites will also proc on our offhand attacks. So yeah, 8 sources of main damage innately. The Divine Smites in themselves are already adding hundreds of damage here, and ultimately we kill Gortash in one turn on honor mode with his legendary action, as you can see. Mid-fight he also procced his Invoke the Black Hand on a reaction, which gives him the Avatar of Tyranny buff, and that gives him another 150 HP. But we also just blew through all of that, like we basically just ignored this dude's ability and told him, speak to the hand, sir. After seeing such 18+ content displayed here like it's nothing on YouTube, I know some of you like written guides or character sheets of my builds. So if you're not aware yet, I have those on my Patreon as well. Yes, they are all there too in that format, and sometimes I also release them in advance there before I publish my videos. You will also support the channel too, so it's a win-win-win situation, really. Also subscribe, like, do all that stuff too, you know how it works. Dealing like 500 damage in one turn is great versus the biggest bosses, but most enemies will get one tapped, as you also saw in part 1. How do we then progress from level 9 onwards, right? Well, for level 1 to 8, it stays exactly the same as in part 1, because everything earlier stays relevant now too. For example, Cloud of Daggers, excellent for choke points, excellent for a lot of spread damage across the board in one turn. Fireball for that huge AoE damage whenever we need it, like you see in this clip. Fireball just never really falls off. Late game, early game, it's all the same. Haste to give us another attack that will also proc Divine Smite, and haste is always just good. Hold Person for those juicy crits that everyone is familiar with, of course, but it gets even better late game as we can upcast to higher levels and just hold Person the entire field and inflict absolute carnage as you see here. Counterspell is always good too. Late game it keeps its OPness, just denying annoying or powerful spells on a reaction is a lot of momentum. You cannot miss this spell in your kit, and with our mirror image that we took in part 1 as well, we get over 36 AC easily every fight. Shield then, always good to prevent damage, just a free 5 AC for a level 1 spell slot on a reaction on top of that 36 AC. It's extremely cost efficient and useful. So as you see, a lot of the things that we took at level 1 to 8 stay relevant. What I just mentioned is only the top of the iceberg. Check out part 1 for all the details, because I cannot repeat the entire video again, of course. So let's continue now at level 9. At level 9 we unlock level 5 spells, and here we take two no-brainers in my opinion. First of all, Hold Monster. In addition to Hold Person, we can now absolutely disgustingly destroy every monster in the game too. Let's take Raphael for example, this filthy beast. We Hold Monster him and we can just erase him in one turn essentially if you want to do that. Every hit is a crit, and your Divine Smites will also get the crit value if you already have them here. So it's too much juiciness. Hold Monster is a no-brainer, and when unlocking level 6 spell slots, you can upcast and inflict these deadly spells on two monsters at the same time. Insane value, and we will do cool stuff with this spell as well when we get to gear. The other spell that we're going to get here is going to be Conjure Elemental. It's too much value that will lie in this spell that we just cannot pass up on, especially at level 9. You will get a summon that is equivalent to a 5th party member in terms of HP, so you can soak a lot of aggro with it, but in terms of damage and utility too, this spell can be very clutch. From CC to AoE attacks, to just being a useful presence on the battlefield, taking aggro, being annoying to your enemies, whatever. These summons have definitely a lot of value. And they can be upcasted too for an even more powerful variation, and they come in the different elemental flavors too, so you can adapt on whatever you're fighting that might have a weakness against any of these elements. At level 10 then, we get the Song of Defense, and this little Bladesinger ability is why you, in my opinion, want to get at least 10 levels in Bladesinger before you multi-class. It's the last piece of Bladesinger exclusive utility that is granted to you, but it's actually also just very useful. It's essentially a shield that denies incoming damage depending on what spell slot you want to give it, times 5. So if you fuel it with a level 5 spell slot, that is 25 damage blocked when Bladesinging. And since you have the ability to long rest at this point in time quite frequently, you can be quite liberal with how you want to use it, and it might be very useful for damage denial, and especially on honor mode where too much damage can just simply be the end of your run. We also get two more nice level 5 spells. The better one here is going to be Cone of Cold, giving us an actual good ice type of spell that we can use for AoE purposes and just absolutely destroy targets weak to ice. And up until this moment, it's also the only main element we didn't have a huge AoE nuke for, and that is now solved. And look, we grab Cloud Kill 2 for our other pickup. Another AoE damaging spell, but in the form of poison damage, giving us even more options. But the thing with Cloud Kill is that you can reposition it every single turn in trade for it being a concentration spell. So it's honestly a very efficient way to deal continuous AoE damage without having to expand more spell slots. And that makes it a very unique poison damage, cost efficient spell with a quite big radius that we didn't have something similar yet to. At level 11 we go ahead and grab them Paladin levels. Now if you respect to Paladin being your first level, you can actually get more HP that way, and it's a bit more min-max as Wizard will in that case be your last chosen class, so every single use scroll used will still be cast with intelligence. But if you can't be arch respecting or just don't have the gold somehow, then just going 10 Bladesinger into 2 Paladin is also fine too. The differences are very minimal as you can see on screen, and you can scribe any spell in the game anyways at this point as you will have enough gold, and that way you also know them permanently instead of just single using them once, and cast them in that case also through intelligence since we dumped charisma here. To min-max the Paladin choices then here as much as possible, we grab Crown Paladin. Mostly because the Ancients, Vengeance and Oathbreaker subclasses, their Channel Oath abilities are all fueled through Charisma, and that's not a relevant ability for this build, so we won't get so much out of those. Leaving Devotion and Crown on the menu, and Devotion is not that bad, but it fits a pure tank build more than this one, while Crown is the new subclass introduced with patch 8, so it's kinda worth using it just for that purpose, but also because its exclusive ability is just useful too. It basically makes you or anyone in your party more likely to hit your enemies, and at this point in the game, the proficiency bonus will be +4. So you get +4 to the attack rolls of whoever this is cast on, and that's actually quite substantial. And you cast this using a bonus action as well, so it's just a really nice extra efficient thing to have. As a paladin, you also get lay of hands, some healing and some curing, can be situationally useful, however most of your healing will of course be through your Bladesong Climax. The value of your Bladesong Climax can be absolutely insane, as I showed you in part 1 too. Then at level 12 or 2 levels of paladin, the build is finally complete. We unlock our juicy Divine Smites here, and as I showed you earlier in the video, yeah, those will give us amazing Nova damage, making our burst and 1 turn kill potential really significant on pretty much anything. Something to note about these Divine Smites, however, especially for those that have never played a Paladin before, is that you can micromanage your interactions here, since you can choose what type of Divine Smite level you want to add onto your regular attacks. And this will mostly depend on your enemy's HP. If they still have high HP, you'll want to go for a level 4 or higher Divine Smite. And the thing here is that the Divine Smite upcasting cap is at level 4 spell slots. So you won't actually get more damage out of using a level 5 or 6 spell slot. But sometimes you'll be out of those level 4 spell slots, but you still want to maximize your damage. So in those scenarios, you'll just have to attribute a level 5 or 6 spell slot for your Divine Smite nonetheless. Otherwise, if there's only a little bit of HP left, to be efficient you then use a level 1 or 2 Divine Smite, and if there's a little bit more HP than that left, then a level 3 Divine Smite. And through this reaction prompt, you can also choose to only use your Divine Smites on critical hits if, for example, you are starting to run out of spell slots. Outside of that, we now get a fighting style too, and we grab defense here for the nice extra bit of sustain, and you can prep a spell here. I would go for utility or something that does require charisma to roll with, so Divine Favor or Shield of Faith are good options here. And then that's the leveling sequence done. However, as we are a wizard, we can just scribe any spell that comes on a scroll in the game. So you're not just confined to the leveling interface for your spells. No, 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 no. For this purpose, I would definitely visit the Sunless Sorceries in Act 3. This place is like a Valhalla of getting and trying out new spells, since there are many scrolls to loot here. You can really scribe any spell you like, but I'm just going to give a shout out to my personal top 5 that we didn't grab through leveling. First of all, it's going to be the Artistry of War from the Sunless Sorceries Fold, and this one is super exclusive, as it can only be in fact gotten as a wizard through scribing a scroll. You cannot get this spell through regular leveling as any class, so we need it. But it's actually also just a really good spell. It's essentially a super buffed magic missiles that can curve through obstacles and will always hit whatever you're targeting with it. And on average, it will deal a whopping 78 force damage, which is a great damage type that not much is resistant to. Get that one for sure. Then Disintegrate for the second spell. We do not get level 6 spells through leveling, so we scribe it through a scroll permanently, and this spell is just a decent single target nuke that can be useful at times. The third then, another super exclusive spell. The Sides of the Seelie, Summon Defa, obtained from the Scroll of Bestial Communion, also obtained in the Sunless Sorceries. Now when you scribe this spell, you will permanently summon this guy, in addition to your conjured elemental as well. His name, John Defa, and usually you can only get this guy as a high level cleric through the Planner Ally spell, but picking up the associated scroll and learning it gives us permanent access to the Summon Defa here anyways. Now the Defa here is quite useful. First of all, he's very tanky, but he also comes with ingrained Revivify, so if things go south and one of your party mates dies, well, Deva comes to the rescue. Aside from that, he gets 2 smashes, a concussive smash which boinks the enemy's head for some nice damage and applies potentially a daze as well, and Wrathful Smite, which is essentially the same idea but with possibly frightening them instead. This one is also of the psychic damage type, so it actually synergizes well with your Resonance Stone too. All in all, this guy with the stylish haircut, let's say, yeah, good addition to our kit. Then number 4, Globe of Invulnerability. Another level 6 spell we couldn't get through leveling, so we just simply scribe it here and get it permanently anyway. A really good spell, the name speaks for itself, and this spell can definitely carry you through many scenarios and battles in Act 3 if you want to play it safe. You just cast it, then do your turn, attack, from a distance preferably, then keep some movement left to go back inside the globe, and on their turn they cannot touch you, they can't retaliate as long as you're inside of the globe, and everything will get denied. And the AI will accordingly usually also let them waste their turn to move towards the globe and then ultimately go inside where they still can't attack. So the spell gives you a lot of momentum and strategic advantage, and you usually can already close out the battle with it in a more safe alternative way. Then the final recommendation from the scribed spells at spot number 5 is going to be the Throne, the big boy necro damaging spell that is also super duper exclusive and can only be permanently learned as a wizard from scribing the associated scroll, which can be yet again found in the vault in the Sorcerer Sundries, and I wasn't lying when I was calling that place the Valhalla of spells. This is just a huge single target damaging spell in the form of necro damage, and so far we didn't really have a nuclear necro option, but that's now also fixed. So we now have every single element in our kit essentially in an absolutely destructive form. So yeah, it is time for the party. But okay, everything aside, those are just 5 personal recommendations, including some very exclusive options. But in reality, you can scribe any scroll. As you can see, I have a huge list here, and permanently learn many different spells. And especially because you get so many scrolls anyways while exploring, so you might as well. Gotta catch them all, right? And the best thing is that as a wizard, you prepare spells and aren't just confined to a limited number of learned spells like a sorcerer. So if you didn't like one of your scribed spells, well, you just swap it out for one of your many other spells and stick to that. Yeah, nothing lost really. And as you see, you get level 6 spells this way anyways, and I didn't even mention Chain Lightning for example, but that's also a really good option to scribe permanently. A great AoE lightning spell with a lot of reach and can zap between targets, so closely positioned enemies can be absolutely burnt to crisps with this spell. We did in fact take Lightning Bolt in part 1 as well, which complements this spell pretty well in a long line, so you can use that if they're spaced out like that, and use Chain Lightning instead if they are more close to each other. Okay, enough about spells. You get the gist, and I can go on and on. But you probably know the diversity of this build by now, and you can always tweak it to your own liking. We still have one thing we need to finalize though. Our gear. In part 1 I went over all the best options in Act 1 and 2 and how to quickly get OP with gear. But in Act 3 we get some upgrades too, and things get even more spicy. Now let's go over the most important piece first, our weapons. Shadowblade and the Resonant Stone combo, as mentioned in part 1, is still just the most overpowered in my opinion. That aspect stays the same for your main hand weapon. For our offhand weapon now then, we grab the Rhapsody from the Vampire, and Rhapsody is amazing for this build too. Scarlet Remittance stacking is all we need from this weapon. It's more damage, it's more accuracy, and a higher chance for our spells to successfully apply. So it's basically just made for a Spellblade / Battle Mage type of build. It's amazing, and we can consume 3 stacks to get a guaranteed crit as well, heal, or make an important spell even more likely to hit. So there's really nothing bad about this weapon, and it's a decent +1 finesse weapon for the offhand that thus also scales with dexterity and stacks Divine Smite. We grab it. But I hear you, Shadowblade this, Shadowblade that, and my Hexblade also already made use of this weapon. The reality is that this weapon is just extremely good. But if you cannot see this weapon anymore in your games, then let me give you some alternatives. We do have limited options though, since our Bladesinging only works with a few types of weapons, and we spec heavily into dexterity. So we can only use finesse weapons really. But I will give the 3 best runner-ups in my opinion. First of all on the list, Duelist Prerogative, a +3 legendary weapon that is definitely very hard hitting and comes with some nice extra utility and damage through its special properties. Mix then up with the Ballast Armor for your chest piece to double all its damage as well, since it is in fact a piercing weapon. And with how many attacks we get per turn, yes, that's a lot of extra damage. Speaking of piercing weapons then, the number 2 best alternative on the list is going to be the Infernal Rapier. Not as good as the Duelist Prerogative however, since it's a +2 weapon and its abilities are a bit less interesting for this build, but it still definitely fits the Battle Mage type of aesthetic and build that we're running here for sure. Number 3 on the list is going to be then the Valar Aloof. Thematically, there is no weapon that fits a Bladesinger more, and it comes with cool special abilities like making your enemies miss more often or deal more damage to enemies affected by its shriek radius. Since it's a finesse weapon and versatile, you can also get Great Weapon Master as well for a feat and make it pump really significant damage a lot that way, while still using your dexterity to scale it as well. So those are 3 great alternatives, with the best best runner-up being the Duelist Prerogative in my opinion with the Ballless Armor combo, which can do absolutely disgusting damage, similar to our actual Shadow Blade with Resonant Stone setup. Okay, weapons then covered. For our helmet, we still use the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. It's extra damage for every attack, and we have many attacks per turn, as you already know. The cloak is going to be still the Cloak of Protection. It's just great for the sustain. We upgrade our chest slot now to the Robe of the Weave. Everything we need is in this piece, and it actually works with a Bladesinger since it's a clothing piece, and we can't wear anything medium armor or higher, as you probably know. It innately already gives you 2 bonus AC already, and will also still work with mage armor since it's clothing. Then it gives you a bunch of extra AC in our case because it also still adds your dexterity modifier. This piece then also heals you when you succeed saving throws, and it gives us a bonus to our spell attack rolls and chance to successfully apply spells. So basically this thing was just made for a Bladesinger multiclass build like this. It's excellent. For our gloves, we then still use the gloves of the Battle Mage's power from Act 2 as shown in part 1. It's excellent for this build, makes applying CC a breeze basically. And boots, we still use the GOAT, the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, CC Denial, Misty Step for free, great movement, everything we need. Alternatively, the Bone Spike boots obtained in Act 3 are also a great pickup now as a Bladesinger, as it rewards you for not using armor or a shield and gives you that nice sustain. For your amulet then, we grab the Amulet of Greater Health here for our Godblade. You will notice that as a wizard you will be squishy and won't get too much HP, and this amulet fixes that problem for us very well. It makes us actually a worthwhile battle mage, and the advantage on Constitution saving throws then on top of that is just to make us disgustingly overpowered, with us now having very high rates of always applying our concentration spells. Now a great alternative for your amulet slot is the Spellcrux amulet as well, which gives you a free spell slot essentially. But the thing with this amulet is that you can just equip it, use it and get its benefit, and then unequip it again and replace it for your main amulet. So that's what I usually do as well. For your rings then, we still use the Strange Conduit ring for the synergy with the Resonant Stone, and because we will be perma concentrating ideally. And then for our other ring, we're going to get the slot to the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel that we can pick up in Act 3. This ring pairs up exceptionally well with our gloves. Our gloves will make our likelihood to apply CC skyrocket, and this ring then in addition will give us the possibility to apply many useful CC on a bonus action after we attack, like for example something huge like Hold Monster, which we now can use on a bonus action. But it works with any illusion or enchantment spells, so for example we can use a staple spell like Mirror Image 2 now on a bonus action. The ring just gives us a lot of utility and power like that. It's a must-have for this build in my opinion. Then finally for our bow, we grab the Hellrider Longbow to give us +3 initiative, and we already have high dexterity, so we will now practically always start the battle as the Godblade. Overall, I'm very happy with my gear selection here. I think I picked the best in slot for every slot here, and I would highly recommend you to grab these pieces too and just mimic what I have here for the best results. You always start your day out with casting Shadow Blade and Mage Armor, and then you go from there. And even though we don't wear any actual armor, our AC is still going to be bonkers. 36 on a baseline just using our magic and innate properties like Bladesinging, and then with things like our shield spell we can pump that up to even higher values. We're going to go above 40, and all of that as a wizard essentially. So sustain, yeah, definitely covered. And you will notice if you play with my build here, and you can also see it in all these clips by the way, enemies will just miss over and over and over with this setup, making you truly the Godblade. Now this build is truly something else, and you just have to ask yourself one question: are you truly ready to play the Godblade and have that kind of power?